That little paragraph there versus
half a page.
Yeah, this.
Okay, thank you.
Long. I mean, that's a half a page,
yes.
Right? Versus just a little paragraph. Okay. So now we're going to go down to elective materials and decor special. Let's go down here a little further. This is a good one right here.
I'm not trained enough in this, but why is the KCR RER leaning toward the buyer? Have the builders done something in the past?
No, KCRR.
I'm not.
Their stance is the buyer is more at risk than the seller is.
Okay.
So even in a normal purchase agreement, not new construction, normal residential resale contract, if you read it, it is truly skewed to the buyer. They figure the buyer's the one with their kind of head on the line, because the deal falls through. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer have kind of more to lose maybe than Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Mr. and Mrs. Seller still have a roof over their head, and okay, this deal didn't happen, we'll get the next one, right?
Okay.
So that's why they slant it to the buyer to help protect the buyer as much as they can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that it's the advent of buyer agency that really pushed to that, because the old documents, back before there was this thing called buyer's agency, because it used to be everybody was seller's agents even though they weren't.
Yep.
They said they were. I'm a seller's agent, but they always had my buyers, which I never understand. My buyer, my buyer, my buyer. Well, if you're representing the seller, then it ain't your buyer. It's a buyer.
Yeah.
Okay? So people for years were saying that they were seller's agents, but acting as if they were buyer's agents. And so now these forms have totally changed to now they're more slanted to the buyer than they are to the seller.
So they're kind of double dipping.
Well, not just double dipping. They're protecting the people who not purchased.
Yeah.
The way they were doing in the old days was just wasn't what it was. I mean, you were saying that you were seller's agent, but you weren't. You were acting as a buyer's agent. So all they do is make you act the way you say you are. If you are a designated buyer's agent, then you must act like one. You can't say that you're a seller's agent, but actually be working for that buyer.
The term buyer beware, we've all heard it. That was the mentality for buyers back in the day. Since the advent of buyer agency, like Tori was talking about, that has kind of gone away a little bit, because we now have that mentality kind of protected within the contracts. Or the contracts are written in as a way to help alleviate that buyer beware mentality, I should say.
Okay, we're going to drop into subsurface and similar conditions. The purchase price. Now, this is Stan's contract here. The purchase price and any applicable allowance is predicated upon the assumption that no rock, shale, or other undiggable surface conditions, springs, or other water conditions, unusual utilities or sewer elevations or locations, unstable soils, soils having inadequate load-bearing capacity, or movement of earth to or from the property will be encountered. In the event any such conditions are so encountered, builder shall notify buyer, and subject to any applicable allowances, the purchase price shall automatically be increased by the amount of the builder's additional out-of-pocket cost, if any, incurred to remedy such situation, including, without limitations, extended foundation footings and walls, piering, or other structural suspended slabs. And buyer shall pay to builder within 5 days such additional amount of non-refundable deposit as may be required by builder in connection therewith.
So is this contract, is this basically saying that if they come across any of these conditions, the buyer basically can't pick another lot or get out of the contract? It's just like you're stuck?
Absolutely, that is absolutely what that means.
But, I mean, but since these problems can amount to thousands of dollars.
They're always
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
No.
always thousands.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
You can have it court tested though.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
That easily, the buyer could be in a situation where loan approval was no longer possible.
Well,
True.
this says they have to pay him within 5 days.
5 days from the time that they income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's thousands and thousands of dollars, this person's like...
Okay, again, read the contract. What does it say? That's what you're obligating your buyers to. So, if that's the case, and you know So that question of, well, what's the lot next door? Have there been robbed,
Yeah.
unstable soil in the development?
Exactly.
Does the you can ask the question, does the developer have a rock clause, a policy regarding it? Because back in the day, when I used to work over at Camden Woods, we'd run into this problem all the time. And the way we had a little solution. The solution, we had a rock policy, and we sold it against other people because they didn't. So I would use this rock clause to my benefit.
Sure.
And I would say, you can build here and you have a known. Anything over, it's going to be split between the developer, builder, and everybody has to pitch in $5,000. So you know that you're capped out at $5,000. So I use that as a way to get build jobs and